Okay, so today we're gonna make an animated progress bar in Bash. We are gonna have the added side effect bonus that this script will actually do something useful, but besides that, we're gonna focus on the fun part today, which is making a progress bar in Bash because it's animated and that's awesome. Okay, now you might be asking yourself, why? Why are you doing this in Bash? Aren't there other programs that do this? Can I download something to run in the CLI that gives me a progress bar? The answer is yes, you can. We're doing it because it's fun and it'll be educational, and I think it'll make a fun video. It's fun to program things that are animated. I think it's really cool to like see your work that way on the terminal. It's kind of like exciting. You start working on it, you're like, oh, I could actually like make something cool here. So yeah, I guess let's jump into it. All right, so before we start, I want to talk about what prompted me to actually make this video. Over here, you can see one of my questions over here from a patron over at Patreon. They said I frequently have to clean up large number of files in a directory structure, and then they have a little find command here to find a bunch of cache files, and they were having issues with it. They were saying they couldn't get it to work with -exec rm, or it would work, but it was very slow. They wanted to find a way to sort of like make this run faster, but also, how would you add a progress line to this in Bash? I've already responded to this with a video. It's a short form video, and I've given a couple thoughts in there, and I got a lot of comments from people, and a lot of the comments are really good. People are like, hey, you know, find has a -delete flag. You can pipe find into xargs, all sorts of things like that. GNU parallel can do things like this, and I loved all these solutions. But at the end of the video, a couple people commented and they were like, oh, I really thought we were gonna get to see a Bash progress bar. Like, I really thought you were gonna do that. That seems like something you would do. So that seems like something I'd do. Here we go. We're going to do that because it'd be a lot of fun. If you want to ask me questions like this, go ahead. Check out my Patreon. You can sign up for this. We have a group chat. People ask me questions, and I'll respond to your questions once a month in video format. And yeah, if that's something you're interested in, go check it out. That's awesome. And look at that. Sponsored content over. Let's jump into the code. All right, so we got a blank terminal pulled up here. I already made a directory for us. We are in Bash progress bar. So let's go ahead and let's make a program that will do a progress bar, but we also want it to be able to batch process things. So we need to come up with a good name for it. We can worry about the name later. Let's just call this progress bar. We'll probably change that in the future, but let's just go with this. Okay, so to make any bash script, we just need to put the shebang up here, user bin env bash. Normally I right quit and then reopen the file, but a lot of people have been yelling at me in the comments saying I can just do :E. And look at that. Look, I listen. This old dog can learn new tricks. I don't love that the file is not executable permission. I'm still going to have to remember to chmod +x. I might forget to do that, but hey, look, I'm learning. How awesome is that? So I originally thought with this video, it might be fun just to make the progress bar and just be able to make a generic progress bar that works for anything. And that could be a cool project, but I kind of want to make a useful script, a script that batch processes something, maybe files, and then shows a progress bar. So it'll have both in there. So someone can pull down this code and extract the parts from it that they want and make a good learning experience. So we're going to make a script that's useful and also has a progress bar. That's how I'm thinking we're going to jump into this. So when I say useful, let's try to solve the problem that my patron over at Patreon had, which was finding cache files and deleting them and showing a progress bar as we go through the process. So the first thing we can do, we can find the files, right? Let's do finding files, and then we need to recursively find all the files. So in their example from their question, they had, I'm going to pull it right from here, find -name *cache. So in this example, they found anything in their current directory and all of its subdirectories that's name ends in cache. We can recreate this. I don't want to use the, well, no, I guess we'll just use the current directory. It's safer. I was going to say, I don't want to run to a situation where we delete our own script file. That'd be super annoying. But if we're smart about the *cache thing, then it should work. We could also make the directory come as an argument. Worry about that as we go forward. So we don't need to use find here. We can use this built into Bash. We can get all of the files. We could say files equals open and close parentheses. This is how you make an array in Bash. Now we can use a glob. We can say, I want everything in our current directory, */*cache. This syntax is valid in Bash as long as we turn on the glob star option. I have a video on this. I can link to that where I talk about glob star and all the fun things about it. We're going to turn on glob star, which will allow us to recursively glob files. We're also going to turn on null glob. This is in the event that we don't match anything here. We want this to be an empty array. So null glob basically says, oh, if this glob doesn't match, don't just become the literal string with stars in it. That's stupid. Become an empty array. That's what happens here. So we have our finding files. We find all the files. Now that we have an array with that, we can get the length of that, which will be #, the name of the array, that with an @. There we go. And now we can say found, that's not right, found len files. There we go. So now we just have a simple script that will just find the length of the files. Hey, look, I remembered to chmod +x. Wow, maybe I'm better than I thought. Let's run this. found files, found 0 files. Hey, that makes sense. We don't have any cache files, right? Let's go ahead and make some files here. Let's make dir foo bar baz. Let's touch foo, I don't know, 1.jpg touch 2.txt. I'm making files that won't match the cache glob to show that we won't delete files we shouldn't be deleting. And then in our bar directory, we can make, I don't know, how about foo dash a number between 1 and 500 dash cache. And then in baz, we can make don't delete me. So we have these directories. If we ls them, you can see we have a lot here, a lot that end in cache, and a lot that don't end in cache. So if this works how we expect it to work, we should find, what, 500 cache files? I think we put all the cache files in bar, do a word count -l, we should get 500. So if we run our progress bar program, we found 500 files. Hey, that's awesome. We can double check this. We can loop over the files that we found and print them one by one. So we can do for file in, remember this is an array of files, so we have to use this syntax to iterate over technically expand the array. Do this, echo, file. So now if we run this, we'll get the same output, but we'll get the names of all the files. So we run this and hey, look at this. We have all the file names there. This looks awesome. We're off to a good start right here. We know how many files there are now. We have len, and we know what file we're currently processing. We could set I equals 0 here, and then we can do I++. So we know what file we're currently processing, and we know how many there are. We can make a progress bar here. So imagine if we just run progress bar with I and len. I is the file we're currently processing. Len is how many of them there are. If we go up here, we can make our function. So we called that thing called progress bar. That doesn't exist. We just hallucinated that. We're going to make it now. So we can take 2 arguments. We took I as $1, and we took len as $2. These are our 2 arguments. Now we can figure out how are we going to draw a progress bar. Well, let's not figure that out yet. Let's go ahead and just print something. Let's make this do something. Processing I out of len. Hey, that looks simple enough, right? So if we run this, what are we going to get? Well, we print the name of the file. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of that. So we're just going to put the progress bar. Hopefully that makes sense. This will make it easier to read. Hey, this looks really good, right? Processing file 0 out of 500, and then when we're done, we've processed file 499 out of 500. Kind of off by 1. I don't love that. Even though I is 0, I would say we're on the 0th file. When it comes time to display it, we should probably add 1 to it. I would do it there. I would keep I at 0, but then when we pass it to the progress bar, we'll just increment it by 1. This way, if we did it right, we should have file 1 all the way up to file 500. Doesn't matter what the files are named, this is just how we keep track of them. Hey, this looks good. Processing 1 out of 500, processing 500 out of 500. That's awesome. Now, how can we print a progress bar? Because this is important. How are we going to do this? We need to figure out the percentage done that we are. So we need to figure out, okay, we've done 20 out of 500. What percentage is that? Well, we could do 20 divided by 500. The only problem is we don't have floats in Bash. So we don't want to bring something down to 0, truncate it to 0. So what we can do is we can take how many we currently have, which is I, multiply it by 100, and then divide it by the total. That way we will get a number between 0 and 100, I think, right? That sounds about right. Let's go with that. So we can instead say percent done. This is how much we have done so far, and we can calculate this. Remember how many we've done times 100 divided by len. You might see this in other, like if you were in a math class, you'd probably do I divided by len times 100. We just have to do it in a different order so we don't ever get down to 0. So now we can go here. Perc done %sign here. So now when we print that, we can actually see what it looks like. So hey, look at this. This is beautiful. We now have a percentage from 0 to 100. 100 when we are done. That's great. We are working our way there. We have a number between 0 and 100 that represents what percentage we are done. Cool. What can we do with that number now? We need to print something. We need to construct a progress bar. So let's go ahead and do this. Let's create a string that will have the progress bar. We'll make it an empty string first. And I'm envisioning a progress bar will have vertical pipe characters for each one we have done and spaces for each one we have left. That might be a little confusing. I'll show you what I mean. In fact, you've probably seen this. Actually, let me try this real quick. If I run htop on my machine, oh my God, this is perfect. I'm running htop. This is on my Mac. The output's a little bit wild here. Look at this. It's not a progress bar. This is how much CPU is being used, but it kind of looks like a progress bar, right? There's an open square bracket. There's a number of vertical pipes and then a closed square bracket with a percentage sign. We can do output similar to that. That's what I'm envisioning. So actually, you know what? We're going to change on the fly. Let's start with an open square bracket, and then we will end with a closed square bracket. Now we will write the logic to actually construct the bar for us. So we're going to make a for loop here. We can do for I equals 0. I don't like reusing I here. That's not great. Let's call this current. All right, so we have for I equals 0. Let's say I less than % done. So this is a number between 0 and 100, how far along we are, I plus plus. So this is for all of them that are done so far. We should add a vertical pipe character right there. Then we can hit done here. And then we need another loop. This time it's going to be slightly different. For I equals perk done. Remember, this is how many are done. We're going to start here while I is less than 100 I plus plus. This is for the rest of the characters. We are going to add a space. We're going to say done, and we're good to go. We've constructed our line. Now we can just print it to the screen or return it from this function, which will then get printed to the screen because it inherits that as standard out. Let's go ahead and run this and see what we get. Cool. So this looks wrong. This looks very wrong. We got to 102 and then it says 20% and that's all we get. Now, it seems to run 500 times, but something is very wrong here. Let's figure out what we did wrong. We never declared I as local. So this I right here, this I is actually being used from the global scope. You have to make sure to declare your variables as local. I'm going to put it here on its own line, and look how fun these bugs can be to debug. They're annoying. It's super annoying. I even said in a previous video I was going to use something like this and start using shell check more, right? Didn't I say that? I should probably start doing that. Oh, okay. Actually, you know what? That's not many errors, so we're just not using that yet. That's fine. Let's go back to the progress bar. So we have this. Let's run it this time for real. Hey, look, this is pretty good. This looks like a progress bar. Now, what's the problem here? The problem is that the percentage is out of 100, and we also printed 100 characters. My terminal can't display that because we only have 87 columns on my terminal. So wouldn't it be nice if we could customize how many characters we use in the progress bar? Let's go ahead and do that. We could take this from the user. Right now, I'm just going to hard code it here. I say hard code, I'm making a variable for it. Let's just say we want 50 characters for that. That's awesome. How can we take our percentage and work that into 50? Because again, remember, we don't have floats, so we have to do things a little bit out of order, but let's say num bars, this is how many there are, because we started with just % done. Let's take % done, multiply it by the length, and divide it by 100. Again, because there was 100 because we had multiplied it by 100 above here. So if you were in a different situation, you'd probably do % done divided by 100, multiplied by the length. We don't have floats here. We want to stay in the world of integers. So % done, multiply it by the length that we want, divided by 100, which was how we got the percentage in the first place. Now we have a new variable. We have our num bars variable, and we should just be able to put that here and put that here. So let's go ahead and run this and see what we get now. Hey, that looks really good, doesn't it? There are way less bars. The only problem is it seems like there are a lot of spaces here. So what's going on here? We still have I less than 100. Change this to length. That wasn't me tricking you. That's just me being a little bit stupid. So again, I love having bugs when there's like a visual way to see the bugs. I just think it's a ton of fun. So if you wanted any proof that this is real live coding, there you go. So let's see. Now we have this. Hey, this looks good. Process 1 out of 500, 0%. And then we have the little progress bar below it. This is looking awesome. Let's put that on the same line because we have processing this and then we have the whole thing down here. Imagine if we had this instead. So we have $S, which is our progress bar, current out of len, % done, %. There we go. Hey, this is pretty cool output, right? Look at that. We have our percentage counter on the right. We have what we're currently processing, and then we have the actual progress bar visualization here. So let's go ahead and talk about animating it. How would we animate this? Because this is a ton of fun. I'm going to show you the simplest way to animate this. Are you ready? We're going to do echo here. -E will tell to interpret / escaped character. So let's /R here. Now, if we're going to put the R here, we want to also put an N here. N tells it no new line, and E tells it to interpret the / characters. We're going to put an R there. R is a carriage return. This is effectively moving the cursor back to the beginning of the line without overwriting the line. So what does that mean? Get ready for this. It puts it all on the same line. That's awesome. When the program's done, we're still on the same line. That's not great. We need a final new line. So I'm going to go all the way to the bottom of the file. Once we're done here, I'm just going to put an echo. This is just going to put a simple return all the way at the bottom. Let's rerun this. Ready? That's really awesome. I promise you it animated. It doesn't look like it animated because it ran really fast, but it did animate it. And I can prove it to you. Let's go ahead and slow this down. We have our progress bar. Now we should process file. And we'll give it the file that we want to process. And now we have to write a function to actually process the file. So we have a function here called process file. We'll take the file as the first argument. And this is our function that will actually do something. The original patron wanted me to delete files, so we could just put an rm command here. I'm not going to do that right now, but this is how we process the file. So just for the sake of this demo, imagine if we processed a file by just sleeping for 0.01. This is just to slow the program down. We're going to print the progress bar. We're going to process an individual file, and that processing is nothing but a sleep. So let's go ahead and rerun this. How cool is that? How cool is that? We have our progress bar based on how many files we are processing. That is super cool. That's awesome. I actually, I'm gonna be honest. I didn't think it would look this cool. Like, I knew it would look cool. I like progress bars. I think it's fun to make these, but like, I really like the way this looks. Also, I'm just thinking about this. There's so many ways we can customize this. Look at right here. We put this vertical bar here. We could totally have local bar char. We could even take this as an argument, do whatever you want. And then we can do that bar char here. So we could change that. We could say, maybe I want greater than signs. And then we rerun this and look at that. There's no rules. We can put whatever we want for the bar chart. We could put pound signs, and we could even make the empty character here as a string. We could make that like a period or something if we wanted to. I don't know why. You come up with something that looks good to you. You come up with the style that you like. There's no right and wrong here. Empty char equals space. That way we can just control everything here. Cool. Technically speaking, we could put multiple characters in it, and then it will completely break our logic. But what if we put an unprintable character in there? Now I'm totally just thinking as I go along here. What if we put an escape sequence, and then we put something like open square bracket 31M, and then we had our bar char here. And then we put, at the end of this, the escape sequence 0M and close that. What happens when we run this now? It's in red. Now we have color. You can just add color to this. There's no real rules to it. There's unprintable characters. Just stylize that bar chart for you. How cool is that? That's super neat. I'm going to take that out, but just remember that you could do that. I think it's pretty cool. We run this, and hey, it looks good. We have something now that can batch process files one by one. What is left to do here? Because we're basically like reinventing xargs in a way. In the original video, I even told the user like, hey, use xargs, use anything else. There are a bunch of other things to do this, but we're having fun here. So how can we process our files? Because remember, we're processing them one by one. So what can we do instead? We can batch process them. Imagine if instead of process file, it was process files, and we took an array of files to process. So let's think about how we would do that. Instead of 4 file in files, which we'll iterate over it one by one, let's say we want to iterate over it in batches of, batch size equals 5. We're going to allow the user to customize this. Well, the way we can do this is with a simple for loop. For I equals 0, I less than len, which is the amount of files that we were given, or that we found with that glob, I plus equal batch size. So now we will go up by 5 in this example. So let's close that. Let's get rid of this, and let's move this logic into here. We no longer need this plus plus. We have the progress bar, we have process file, and we only have this file variable. So imagine if instead we had a files array that we would pass as arguments. So how can we extract the files we want out of this? Well, Bash actually has syntax for this, which is pretty awesome if you've never seen it before. So files is right here. This is the array. This will expand to everything that we found. We don't want that. We want a sub array. We want part of the array. We want to slice it. We want to slice starting at I, going for batch size. That means we'll start at the ith position, which will be 0, then it will be 5, then it will be 10, then it'll be 15, then it'll be 20. And how many elements do we want? We always want batch size. We always want 5 out of it. When we get to the end and there's only like 3 items left, it'll only be 3 items. So our batch of 5, you'll get at least 5, or at most 5 files, but at least 1. That's what you'll get with this function up here. So this one just becomes process files, and files would be every file as your argument. So you could just do this. Now we have an array called files in this function that we can iterate over. So we're still going to sleep 0.01, but we're not going to sleep 0.01 for each file. We're going to sleep 0.01 for each batch of files. So this should be 5 times as fast, right? Let's go ahead and run this and make sure I know how to program and this all just works. How awesome is that? That was so much faster, even though the sleep duration is the same because there's 5 times less sleeps. The only problem here is, look at this. The progress bar is 496 out of 500, 99%. That's because that's how far the progress bar was before the last batch. We never actually got the ending there. So there's a super easy way to solve this. Just copy and paste this line down here and just fabricate the ending. We already did process the files. We could put some error checking to, bail if we fail to process the file. Our processing is just sleeping, so it's never going to fail. But just put a progress bar of len and len. That's just saying, hey, throw in that last 100%. So we run this. There we go. 500 out of 500 processed, 100%. There you go. So now, to process these files, if you were the original user who asked me this question, just put rm files. There you go. It will go through and rm them for you. I'm not going to do this. I don't want to actually delete the files. Let's just throw an echo in front of it. So then you'll actually see like what would have happened. So the progress bar got lost. It got overwritten each time. But basically, here's what would have been executed. rm, this file, this file, this file, this file. So it calls rm in batches of 5. I could change this. We could say, let's batch up 3. I only want to batch 3 at a time. These are the commands it would run. How cool is that? Oh, you know what? We could run a little bit more than that. Let's do 20 at a time. Way faster. Way faster. How awesome is that? Or, I'm glad you included batching, Dave, but I just want to serialize it. I want to do it one by one. That's fine. A batch of 1 is totally valid. The output's kind of funny because it's like a mixture of the progress bar and the output. So yeah, you got to be careful about that. But if you don't have any output, you can just do that and you're good to go. So we have this code here. Let's just clean it up a little bit. I don't intend this to be super useful code in and of itself. I intend this to be something people can build off of and modify and suit to their needs. So let's just put some config variables up here. Batch size equals 5. And now I'm thinking about it, I don't even know if any other config variables would even make sense because we have batch size here. Let's go ahead and make that. And the only other thing I could think to possibly move to the top would be this. The only problem is like this could theoretically take a long time to run. That's why I really like the echo above and below it, so you at least know your system's doing something. You could even time this if you wanted to. So yeah, you know what? I might just leave it like this. I feel like this code is good enough to learn from, to modify, to change however you want it. And I think this code will be useful for the original patron over at Patreon because you can take this, you can modify it to fit your environment, change the batch size to what you want, process files, just put the RM in there and mess around with it, and it should work. The only way I can see this not working is if your file is just really, really long name and the RMs aren't working to begin with. But other than that, this should just work for you. So yeah, hopefully this is interesting. Hopefully this was fun. I think it's fun to make like visual things in Bash. I know there are CLI projects out there that make progress bars, and I would say go ahead and use one of them. They're probably really great at what they do. But I want to show you also, it's approachable. It's not too difficult. Like, you can just write code. You can just do things. If there's nothing else you take away from my content, just let it be this. You can just do things, man. Programming's fun. Like, that's why I do it. That's why I like this stuff. And I hopefully I can instill some of that on you guys. So yeah, appreciate it. Thank you so much for watching. Again, I have a Patreon. Go check it out if you want to ask me questions like this. I can't guarantee you'll get a full-length video like this. I just got nerd sniped. I really like this subject, so I decided to jump in on it. And yeah, there you go.